What is up, and welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. I yeah, thank you so much for listening to episode 1, and I received so many messages too, just like hyping me up. So I appreciate it because um yeah, like I said on the first episode, this has been something that has been a thought of mine for a long time, and I just kind of let fear and kind of all the other things, procrastination just kind of take over. So I'm excited that it is off the ground. Yeah, so I made some notes again today, and probably some more notes than last time, just because this topic that we're going to dive into today has been vital in my weight loss journey. And so, yeah, just kind of have a lot to say. So made some notes. So if you are watching and not just listening, you'll probably see me refer down to my notes, and it's going to help me to stay on track because if you listen to last week's episode, if you haven't, go listen to that because you'll get to know me a little more. Um, but sometimes I can ramble and kind of go off course a little bit. So these are hopefully going to keep me a little bit organized. So yeah, so today's topic is going against the norm in your health and fitness journey. And yeah, this is huge. This was huge in my journey. Fear of going against the norm kept me stuck forever. Not forever, but for a long period of time, what felt like forever. And yeah, it's something that I feel like I have, overcame, so to speak. And it's just made a world of a difference in regards to, my health and fitness journey, my a physical transformation, if you will, but also just in my overall quality of life of just learning how to feel confident enough to and equipped enough to make decisions that are outside of the norm, but that align with me and that help get me closer to my health and fitness goals. So I just want to talk a little bit about that today. And just help you if this is something that you struggle with. I want to give you some kind of tangible things that hopefully help you to be able to feel confident enough to make decisions in your own life that may be against the norm and maybe different than what you have been doing, but maybe you desire to make different choices. And I hope that some of this will give you some insight on maybe how to do that or how to navigate that. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. I love quotes, as cliche as they are. I feel like I love cliche sayings because a lot of them are just so true. So I'm thinking about, I kind of want to start each episode, if appropriate, depending on the topic of like with a little quote that can kind of set the stage, if you will. And so today, and this is in regards to decision making, the kind of encouragement quote, if you will, is you are always in control. Every moment is a chance to make the next right choice. Um, I think if we can think about things that way, like every moment is a chance to make the next right choice, it can make things seem a lot less overwhelming, right? Like I don't have to make the right choices for the next week, for the next 5 years. I just have to make the next right choice, right? Then we get that one down, and then we have to make the next right choice, right? And so that really helps me to kind of stay present and not get too overwhelmed and just remind myself of like, hey, just make the next right choice, right? And after that, you can move on to the next one and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the theme of the day. And then one other thing that I wanted to talk about was in the show notes, there will be a PDF worksheet linked. Um, I don't know about you, but anytime that I listen to a podcast, I'm oftentimes multitasking. I am, like cleaning my house or I'm walking or I'm driving or something, and I'm never just like sitting down listening to a podcast taking notes, right? It'd probably be a lot more helpful sometimes if I was, but I'm usually doing, a multitude of things. And so I created a worksheet, and I want to do this moving forward as well, if the topic is appropriate, of kind of some thought-provoking questions that you can ask yourself, maybe journal about regarding the episode, and then just some kind of key points of the episode. So, if you resonated with this episode and you're like, man, some of that would be really helpful to implement, and maybe you're driving, right? After you listen to the episode, the worksheet, if you will be in the show notes. You can download that, print that, and then go through the exercises if you feel like that would be helpful. So thought that would be a cool little thing to kind of implement, because I know sometimes I will um be like, oh, I'm going to start doing that or whatever, and then it's like, you forget about it, right? And then you just don't implement the thing. So hopefully that will be helpful. So okay, so let's start talking about how kind of some personal a personal example of this. So how I used to struggle with following the crowd and not really wanting to be judged for making other choices, right? So, early on in my health and fitness journey, or, for years when I was wanting to lose weight, I just couldn't. And what I really, really struggled with, and one of the main things that I believe that kept me stuck, was being scared, being fearful of judgment, of how am I supposed to just start making these other choices, these different choices? How am I supposed to go out on a Friday night with my girlfriends and not drink alcohol, but they all are? I'm supposed to just sit there and order the water? Like, oh my gosh, how weird. How am I supposed to leave a get together at 8 p.m. because I want to get rest? I'm supposed to just tell these people, like, no, I need 8 hours of sleep. Like, all of these things, I knew I needed to make those different choices if I wanted a different lifestyle, if I wanted to lose weight. I just was so fearful of judgment, of how do I do that? How do I start making these other decisions? How do I tell these people in my life that I'm all of a sudden gonna start being different, right? It's hard. It's hard going against the norm. And I say this being funny, and I don't mean to come off as like judgmental or anything, but if we look at society currently, like, society is like, what society looks at as like normal is a little ass backwards. And I say that with like all the love and care in my heart, because I used to be a little ass backwards, right? Like, I was the person judging the person who was like, no, I just want water, or no, I can't tonight. I need to get some rest, or I want the salad with some protein for dinner, right? Like, I was that person being like, that's weird, right? Because I wasn't making those choices. Deep down, I desired to make those choices, but I just wasn't in a place in my life that I was making those choices yet, right? Um, so yeah, and I think a lot of times it comes from the fear, right? Fear of being judged, fear of what are people gonna think, right? Um, Fear of, if I start making these different choices, am I gonna be able to stick with these choices, or am I going to revert back to, old ways? And then maybe these people are gonna think like, oh, I knew she couldn't change, right? Or whatever. And I think that fear of what are other people gonna think keeps a lot of people stuck. And it kept me stuck for so long. And on the other side of that, I think what keeps people stuck and kept me stuck was the unknown, right? Like, sure, in my choices that I was making, eating lots of fast food, lots of processed food, drinking lots of alcohol, um, being in poor romantic relationships, not moving my body, all of these things, you know, sure, they were making me feel quite miserable. However, there's a little bit of comfort in misery, right? Because it's familiar, right? Versus if I started to think about making these other choices, it was like, okay, maybe I could start to feel different, look different, feel better But that unknown was so scary because I couldn't even really imagine it, right? It was like, well, what does that even look like? What does that feel like? What's that going to do? And that unknown was so scary that this misery yet comfortable situation was like, I'm just going to stay over here because I'm comfortable here, right? Like I'm comfortable going out to dinner and ordering the chicken fingers and beer because that's comfortable. Sure, it makes me feel like shit, but I'm comfortable. So I'm going to stay here, right? Versus this was the unknown. It was like, you may feel really good and have a lot of energy and no headaches and no hangovers and all of this, but like you don't know what that feels like. And so that was so scary. And so I think oftentimes that's what keeps us stuck, right? Is the fear of judgment and the fear of unknown, right? Um, and I think the other piece of that is boundaries. Setting a boundary is really, really hard, right? I don't even know if I knew back then what a boundary was. Sure, I learned it maybe in school or whatever, but I didn't really know like how do you implement boundaries, right? And then like you have to stick to your bound like and then what do you do if someone disrespects your boundary? Like what do you do, right? Like I think those are the hard things. Setting boundaries, going against the norm, and diving into this unfamiliar area, right? Yeah. So, and something that I wrote down here is discomfort breeds growth, right? And I wish I would have kept that at the forefront years ago. Because I think sometimes we avoid discomfort. I know I used to, right? That's why I stayed over here in kind of the misery of my choices, but comfortable, right? Because this uncomfortable place was uncomfortable. And I was comfortable over here. I wasn't happy, but I was comfortable. And it's I think we look at discomfort as kind of a bad thing as a society, but it's like no, that's where we grow, right? Learning to make different choices, going against the norm. Um, that's that discomfort, setting those boundaries, that's how we grow as humans, right? Yeah. So, and this is funny. I was thinking about this the other day. When I first started to make different choices or think about making different choices, I used to kind of feel like I was like damned either way. I was, 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I had this fear. I would like, okay, you're gonna go out to dinner tonight. We really want to make healthier choices, but this is the way I would think. I would think, okay, if you go to dinner and you order the chicken fingers, the French fries, and the beer. This is my thought process. I would think, well, yeah, they're gonna be like, well, yeah, Taylor's overweight. Of course, that's what she's gonna order, right? But on the other side, it was like when I would think about, okay, what if you ordered this? Maybe a water, a steak, sweet potatoes, and some green beans. That sounds delicious right now. What if you ordered that? I would think to myself, they're gonna think, oh gosh, here Taylor goes again trying to diet, right? It's not gonna last, right? So it was like, man, I remember used to thinking like I'm damned either way, right? Like they're gonna be thinking this way or that way about me. And you know, I think back to it now and it's like, Taylor, the reality is like people probably weren't even thinking about you, right? Like we all know we live in a self-absorbed society. Like people oftentimes aren't thinking about us, right? Do they really care what you order when you are out to eat, right? Like I doubt that the people I was out to eat with was like, oh yeah, Taylor's 100 pounds overweight, so of course she's ordering this. They probably weren't even, they were thinking about what they were going to order, right? But I felt so insecure and not sure about either option. And so those are the thoughts that just um kept me stuck in fear, I guess. And on the other side of that, I think if this is helpful to remember, and this has been helpful to through my journey is to remember this is if someone does make a comment about your choices, and it's usually when you're, and this is a little backwards, but it's usually when you're making a choice that is good for yourself, right? Like maybe you are choosing the nutrient dense option, or you're choosing the water, or you're choosing to go to bed early. Sometimes people will make comments about that, right? And that's hard because it's like, wait, why are you making comments about my choices? And I am trying to better my life, right? But I think what we have to remember is oftentimes those comments are a reflection of their insecurities, right? And I get this because I used to be that person. If someone was ordering a water and I was downing the beer, I would be the person who felt super uncomfortable with that person drinking the water because I I wanted to say I wanted the water, but I was going with the beer. And so I used to be that person. I think back to this all the time. I didn't have the awareness then, but I think back to that all the time as I was that person calling people out for making better decisions for themselves because I felt so insecure about the choices that I was making. And so I always keep that in mind now is like, yeah, sometimes people do make comments of, oh, of course Taylor's going to get the salad with the double chicken, right? I was just at a restaurant yesterday with my family. And I ordered a salad and I had her leave the dressing on the side. I got double protein. I had her leave off the croutons, not because I had to, but because that's what I wanted. And as she's writing it down, she is smiling to herself. And then the whole table started laughing. I didn't mind it at all, but it is okay if let those people make the decisions, is what I'm trying to say, or those comments. Because again, I used to do it to people with no awareness kind of it, right? But just remember that too, is it's not that those people don't want you to make healthy choices for yourself 9 times out of 10, but it's often that they feel insecure with their choices and where they're at currently, and that's why they're making those comments, right? I used to take them really personal, and now I've learned not to, right? It usually just comes from their own struggles. So yeah, I think there's kind of to summarize that whole like rant there. I think there's two sides there. Is when you're thinking about making a different decision and you're like, "Oh goodness, what are these people going to think?" On one side, it's, "Hey, people typically aren't that thinking that much about us as maybe that we think they are, right?" And on the other side, if they do make a comment, um it may be just because they're a little insecure with their choices, or it may just be that they're really curious, right? Like maybe you are the person who always orders the chicken fingers and French fries. I'm saying that one because that used to be my go-to. I love chicken fingers and I love French fries. And this time you choose a healthier option, right, out to eat. And they may just wonder, they may just be curious. So always, keep that in mind, um, as well. So So yeah, I think that something that helped me was really kind of identifying, okay, what are the different decisions I want to start making and how do those look, right? Like I remember I would even kind of like play a scenario in my head of like, okay, I'm going to go to dinner and maybe I wouldn't talk out loud by myself, but in my head, I would be thinking, okay, if they say this, or how am I going to approach that, right? And just have kind of a rough draft idea in my head of like, okay, I'm going to make a different decision tonight. It may be brought up of like, oh, why are you making that decision? Or they may make a comment or whatever. It's like, okay, how are you going to handle that, right? And that would help me to kind of relieve just any like anxiety or stress or whatever of like, okay, I have a rough draft plan of like, this is the different choices I'm going to make. And if someone approaches me about it, like, this is what I'm going to say. Um, And something that helped me start to have the courage to do that was just like reframing my mindset and really having the goal be to honor myself and honor my future goals, right? Um, so like one of the shifting mindset pieces that I made is like shifting from I don't want to be judged, right? Like that's where I used to live in. Is like I'm just gonna make the same choices I always make because I don't want to be judged, right? Two, I had to kind of reframe this to I want to honor my goals and what makes me feel my best. So I would allow that reframe to drive my different choices, right? So instead of I don't want to be judged, I don't want to be difficult or different tonight at dinner. Like I'm just gonna make the same choices I always make. Like it's not getting me closer to my goals, but whatever, it's comfortable, right? I would remind myself, Taylor, breeds growth, and I would honor myself. And that reframe would look like I want to honor my goals and what makes me feel my best. So, having that in mind, I would kind of play the tape, if you will. And okay, when I go to dinner tonight, I am going to order a water, maybe a Diet Coke. I'm going to look at the menu ahead of time and I'm going to choose a option that I enjoy, one. Two, that's going to make me feel my best. And three, that's going to get me closer to my weight loss or my physique goals, right? And then, like I said, I would just early on, I would kind of have a rough draft plan in my head of, okay, if someone approaches you about making a different decision, what do you feel comfortable saying? Um, and something that I wrote down here that I think may be kind of helpful is how to handle those comments, right? And I think it's important here to feel confident in your decision or act confident, even if you're not confident in those decisions yet. It's kind of like fake it till you make it. It's be confident in your decision and don't feel like you have to over explain, right? You can make whatever choices you want to make, right? And you can explain in whatever way that you want. But I used to feel like I had to like really explain myself. And it's like, Taylor, you do not have to over explain yourself. Like you can just say, hey, this is the option that sounded really yummy to me. Or you can say like, hey, I'm starting to prioritize my goals and making this choice is the first step in doing so, right? Keep it simple is what I wrote down. Keep your responses simple, right? Um, and I think that's huge. It's just remembering to honor ourselves and kind of remember our why up here, right? Is you want to honor yourself. You want to start to be able to build trust with your choices. And I think something to keep in mind is the more reps you get in with making different choices and going against the norm, the easier they will become. If you would have told me 5, 8 years ago that I would feel completely comfortable, like yesterday going to lunch and ordering a water, making my salad how I wanted it to, asking for extra protein, all of those things. If you would have told me that I would have felt comfortable doing that in front of five other people, I'd been like, heck no. No, I'm just going to go with the beer, chicken fingers, and French fries because that's what they expect me to order, right? So I'm telling you, the more reps you get in with doing it, I promise you, it will get easier and easier and easier, and you will get closer to your goals, build more confidence, closer to your goals, build more trust in yourself. It's powerful, and I know sometimes we can kind of overlook like it's just one small decision and it's like there is so much power in that one small decision, right? Because think when I think about the last say 7 years of all the decisions I have made, right? over and over and over, right? Like, Taylor, should I go with comfort over here or should I go with discomfort and it's going to get me closer to my goals? Which one should I go with, right? The more that I started to pour into this box over here, the easier that it got, right? And now it's to a point where it's like yesterday, I don't even think about it. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm gonna eat. No one said anything about it. Sure, the waitress, because she didn't know me, kind of laughed about it, but like my family and they know, right? Whereas years ago, it would have been like, oh, this is different, right? Because it was different for me at that time. And so I know that when you're starting to make different choices, especially in a social situation or where other people are around and you're going against the norm, it can feel like this is never going to get easier, right? But I promise you, it will get easier. And eventually, if you stick with it and you see the benefits of making these different, better choices that get you closer to where you want to go, you will never look back. You will be like, I am so glad that I pushed through the discomfort and grew. And now I am comfortable making these decisions that I know serves my current self, my future self, and gets me closer to my goals. Um, and something else that I want to mention here, I feel like I'm jumping all around here, but I hope that it's making sense. Is you know, the ripple effect. I think about this so often. Even like sometimes I can find myself, and maybe even more so in the past, of like, I want to help all of these people, right? Like hundreds and thousands of people, right? And it's like, well, Taylor, remember, if you help one person, then that one person could take that information and help one more person, right? And then that person could take that same information and help the next person, right? And that's the ripple effect, right? And how powerful is that, right? Sure, we don't ever know how far that ripple went, but we can imagine, I'm sure it went far, right? And it started from, one pouring into one person, right? Um, and so I think with the ripple effect in regards to making choices is I always think, and I think that it would be beneficial for you to think this way, especially if making different choices right now feels difficult or uncomfortable, is you may give someone else permission to make a better choice as well. That ripple effect, right? You may be at a table with 6 to 8 people, right? And maybe you guys always order beer, right? Nothing wrong with beer. But if you're on a health and fitness journey and say, alcohol is something you're trying to minimize, just for your mental health, your physical health, whatever, and maybe there's someone else at the table who's also like, I would really like to stick to water tonight because I have an early morning in the morning and I don't want to be hungover. I don't want to have anxiety. But I'm not going to order a water because everybody else is ordering rounds, and I'm not going to be that odd person out going against the norm, right? Think if you make that decision to say, I'm going to have some water tonight, you never know. That next person might say, I'm going to have a water too, right? And that ripple effect is powerful. And even if they don't make that decision that night, you never know. That person may be thinking, oh my goodness, that was so cool, powerful, whatever, to see Linda. I don't know where I got Linda from, but that was so cool to see Linda the other night say, I'm going to have water while everybody else was having rounds, right? And you may give that person permission, maybe the next time they're out to eat, to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have water, right? Then there may be someone at that dinner who, same thing. Then they get, enough courage to make a different choice that serves them, right? Um, yeah, and I think I think it's powerful. Not only are you helping yourself, um, but you're creating that ripple effect. And I think someone needs to be the person that's saying, hey, just because society thinks all of these things are norm, scrolling on our phone for hours, not moving our body, binging alcohol, processed food, fast food, not getting enough rest, all of these things, not setting boundaries, just because that's kind of a lot of society's norms. It's doesn't mean that it has to be your norm, right? And it may feel scary because maybe it's been your norm for so long, and that's okay. Like it doesn't have to be your norm anymore, right? It's to go back to the quote, kind of full circle here is every moment is a chance to make the next right choice. And then the next one, and then the next one, right? And this is the thing, if you backslide, so to speak, and maybe you go back to, okay, I'll have the beer and chicken fingers. That's okay, right? You just hop back on the train and okay, that was the last choice, but now I'm going to make the next right choice, right? And that's what it's about is just okay, we backslid a little bit. Okay, we're just going to make the next right choice, right? And like I said, the more the more reps you get in with these things, the easier and easier they become. And then eventually it's you've kind of became that person, right? It's that saying, like you have to, I'm gonna butcher it, but so I should have had it written down, but it just came to me, is like you have to start showing up as that person before you become that person, right? Um, so yeah, I digress from that. Um, yeah, so one last thing here is something that really helped me, especially going into situations where maybe I was going to make a different decision, was kind of playing the script in my head. And I still do this. At times. Maybe not so much with like food choices and stuff like that, because that's something that I've like practiced a lot, or not really so much with like alcohol at all anymore because, I'm sober now, but with other things, I still pause and play the script because I am someone who has struggled with impulsivity like probably since I came out of the womb. And so sometimes I can just make decisions really quick. And so what I've really had to like teach myself is like pause, take a breather, Taylor, um, and play the script, right? So kind of take it back to, let's use the same kind of theme as like making different decisions when we're going out to eat, right? And it's okay. It kind of set the scene. I'm on a health and fitness journey. I want to lose 50 pounds. I really want to make this a lifestyle. But I always have that idea of, okay, I'm going to choose something different at dinner tonight. Because I want to see progress with my weight loss goal. But I never seem to make that choice. When I get there, I'm peer pressure. I'm just like, okay, chicken fingers, fries, and beer, please, right? And so what I had to do was like stop and start playing the script. So, okay, we go to dinner tonight. We order the chicken fingers, the beer, the French fries. The one beer turns into five because who can ever drink one beer? It's a Friday night. I drink too much. On the way home, we stopped and got McDonald's because we were feeling it. Didn't go to bed until late, felt like crap. Woke up the next morning, was hungover, missed my workout, did not have a good day Saturday, wasted my day, laid in bed. Okay, play the script, right? Versus, what if I make a different decision tonight? What could that look like? Okay, go to dinner tonight, get a little uncomfortable because I'm about to make a different decision in front of these people who are used to me maybe making decisions this way. Okay, go to dinner. I say, hey, I'm gonna have water and a Diet Coke, and I'm like looking over this way, like I'm talking to the waitress or something. And I am going to do, you know what? I'm gonna do the grilled chicken, the potatoes, and a side salad. Okay. The bread comes instead of the whole loaf. I have one loaf. It's just still the scenario in my head. I have one loaf. I have one piece of the loaf. My meal comes, my drinks come, my water and Diet Coke. I'm really enjoying them. I'm really focused on the conversation versus like this beer. I'm starting to have a buzz. Instead, I'm really just connecting. Um, and then I enjoy my meal. After the meal, I feel really satisfied. I don't feel overly full. I feel good. I go home, I get home at 9 p.m. I do my skincare, I put on some pajamas, I drink some tea. I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, I got 9 hours of sleep. I feel great when I woke up. I go get my workout in. I come home, I don't have much to do that day. I get in the shower, I go run some errands, which means like Target and coffee, and just have like the best day. Huh. Okay, what option? Okay, what if I go with this new option? Like, how good would that feel not only tonight, but then my Saturday, I get to spend it this way? Okay, I'm gonna push through the discomfort tonight to make that different decision because that really sounds ideal, the Target part. So that's what I started to have to do was really play the script. Pause, don't be so impulsive, Taylor, and think through both option. Think through how is it going to feel making that decision? How are you going to feel during the event? How are you going to feel after? How are you going to feel the next day? How are you going to feel the next time you have to weigh in? Like what scenario serves you best and aligns with your goals. And when I was able to stop and play the script, it kind of sobered me up. I always find myself saying that. Like when I'm able to stop and play the script, it kind of sobers me up. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, duh, I'm going to go with this choice where I'm going to choose the nutrient dense option, the Diet Coke, get a good night's rest, have my day tomorrow, right? It kind of takes me out of like, okay, let's make a choice that serves us versus a choice that may feel a little or a little comfortable because we're used to making that choice, right? So I hope that helps. I think that playing the script in any area of our life, but playing the script when it comes to making decisions, I think can help us to really put things into perspective of, okay, what decision do we want to make, right? Not just a decision maybe that we're used to making that, but that is keeping us stuck. Um, so yeah, that was a lot. That was I just rambled for I don't even know how long we've been on here, but that was a lot. So yeah, the kind of the last piece here is like just give yourself permission to be different. Being okay to go against the crowd. And again, you may be that person that helps the next person also make a different choice. And that is the ripple effect, right? That is the ripple effect of helping one person, then that person helps the next, and so on and so forth. And that is to me, that is so, so powerful. Not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping someone else. Like to me, is there anything else cooler than that? Um, you honoring your decisions builds trust and self-respect. And like I said, the more reps you get in, the easier and more confidence and more trust that you build within yourself. Once you start to build trust within your inner self, then you will be able to show up in a way that allows you to also then reach your health and fitness goals quicker, which then makes you also feel more confident on the outside, right? Because maybe you're finally then seeing the weight finally come off and stay off because, you're building self-respect, you're building self-trust by making decisions over and over and over that honor you and where you want to be. Um, and in this, I had this little quote written down. We're just on a quote wagon today, but your health and fitness journey isn't about making everyone else comfortable. It's about making choices that align with who you want to be. Need I say more? Um, So yeah, I think to close all of that is, I challenge you this week to notice a moment where you feel the pull to do what everyone else is doing. And instead, kind of play the script and try to choose what is best for you and see how that feels, but do it. And know that, the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. So I hope this episode made sense. I feel like I just went on a little bit of a ramble, but that's kind of what I do. But I hope that kind of the way that I laid that out made sense for you. And I hope that this episode just allows you to have the courage to start to think about what choices do I need to make different in my life and how can I go about doing that? Um, and just make the next right choice. So I'm so glad that you listened. Again, this is something going against the norm, playing the script. Like these are two things that, and that's why I chose it to do, this first kind of episode with a topic outside of the introduction episode. This is why I chose these because those two things were pivotal in my health and fitness journey, my weight loss journey. And they're two things that I still keep at the forefront of my mind because I know that those things have to continue going against the norm and playing the script if I want to continue to live the lifestyle that I live now that allows me to, maintain, a healthy lifestyle, if you will. So, let me know if you have any questions or comments about the episode. If you know someone who may benefit from this, feel free to share. If there's any way that I can help hold you accountable, or if you're like, hey, Taylor, this is the decision I am committing to make different this week that I think will serve me in this way, feel free to DM me. I would love to like hype you up with that. And again, the worksheet, that kind of summarizes that ramble that I think would be super helpful for you to kind of go through if this content is something that you feel like would be valuable for you. That worksheet is in the show notes. If you're having any issues opening it or anything, of course, let me know, but it should be linked as a PDF there. And yeah, I think that's it. So, okay, you have a good Sunday. It's probably not Sunday when you're seeing this. It may be, but if not, you have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.